such a statement. At best, the statement reflects naivete and inexperience and is a stark reminder that the next mayor of the city of Hartford should have some prior experience in elected office. At worst, this statement reflects a concerning ethical lapse and a complete disregard for the self-determination of the people of Hartford. This obvious pay-to-play scheme is a betrayal of public trust that cannot be restored. Because of actions like this, it is probably the cause that Hartford residents feel their vote does not really count, and consequently, too many are reluctant to regularly participate in the political and electoral process. It is because of these types of incidents that voter turnout in Hartford is customarily low. Hartford residents and voters feel that politicians just can't be trusted. Torrington should not have any say in how Hartford looks, nor should any other municipality. The only people who should have some say in how Hartford looks are the residents of Hartford. Hartford voters must ask themselves, does a candidate who sells political influence in return for a campaign contribution deserve their vote? Hartford residents need to be respected as much more than a mere bargaining trip. With that, I would relinquish the podium to Councilman Nick Lebron, who has some remarks.
Thank you, Senator. I stated at a mayoral forum back in January that Hartford is not for sale. I said this because it was very clear early on that the mayoral campaign finance donations was telling us a story that some candidates believed Hartford could be bought and sold, and also believed that Hartford cannot finance itself. Since then, candidates have told us that they believe in the people of Hartford, yet their donations tell us otherwise. They have told us they believe in investments in the poorest neighborhoods, but their lawn sign placements tell us otherwise. They have told us they provided home ownership for us, yet those prices of those very same homes are not priced for us. The homes, the investments, and the donations must be priced for someone else. Well, I'm here to say, again, that Hartford is not for sale, and it should never be. After watching the video of the endorsed mayoral candidate, along with our mayor, begging Torrington Trump supporters for campaign contributions, I have come to realize that it has come too far, too obvious, and too shameful of our. My pastor has told me on several occasions in Sunday service, what was once in the dark shall soon come to light. And now the tide has turned. Any indication of needing assistance from the rich Republicans of Torrington is synonymous to associating the people of Hartford's democracy with needing welfare. To anyone or any candidate who thinks this, I say farewell. Farewell to that thought process. Farewell to those condescending notions. Farewell to the trust in the city's confidence that you can lead our people in our neighborhoods. Because you said yourself, Torrington can have a say in what Hartford looks like. But I guarantee you that Torrington will never have Hartford have a say in what they look like. When I look at Hartford every day, I believe we, the people in Hartford, should have the ultimate say in what Hartford looks like. The scholars in our schools should have a say in what the future looks like. The community catalysts, like Mama Kusi, who go to work every day on the front lines, should have a say in what Hartford looks like. My people, mi gente, trust and believe we no longer need to be sold to the highest bidder. Our future can't afford it. The for sale sign is coming down. Hartford is not for sale. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. My name is Pearl Granite, and I'm a resident of Hartford. When I came to Hartford in 1971, I became probably one of Hartford's most vocal cheerleaders. I support Hartford, and I support the residents and people and my neighbors who live in Hartford, who are overall hardworking people, every day going to work, trying to raise their families, put their kids through school, keep activities, go to church, good people building this city. I'm disappointed in the statement that there would be other counties in the state of Connecticut that would have a say in our capital city. We're an important city. Our residents need to have a say. Our candidates, Eric Coleman, has many small-based contributors who should have a say in what goes on in the city. Hang in there a minute. We all know money has influence, and big money has big influence. And we want the residents of Hartford to have the influence in this city. And I say to those who live outside of the city who want that influence, move to Hartford. Raise your children in Hartford. Buy a house in Hartford. We welcome you to live with us. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. First, I would like to say it is an honor to be at the same podium that both of you guys spoke at. I got the most utmost respect for y'all. So, I have been a Hartford resident all my life, and I've been doing community work since I was 16 years old, and I am 72, and I am still at it strong, right? My thing is I'd rather have somebody come in that know our community, not just the north end, the south end, the west end, you know, the east end. They know exactly what they're talking about. And the other thing is that, like, for me, I'd rather have somebody that I know that I can say their name. I can't even say the guy's name, so I'm lost. And, you know, I don't know anything at all about him, but I do know about politics, and I know about great peoples and people that I've worked with. I've been in just about every community organization you can name. Plus, I've raised my kids here. I've raised lawyers. I've raised doctors. I have one granddaughter that's graduating from Johnson & Wells on an honor scholarship, was considered one of the 6 smartest kids that was in Florida. I have a granddaughter that worked at the Pentagon, you know. So I am very proud to say that Hartford do work and it can work, but let's keep it in Hartford. Because I guarantee you, if y'all go outside of Hartford, then what's going to happen is whoever's in going to be in Hartford, but trust me when I tell you this, they are going to be strictly for whatever town they come from. I don't know if I'm supposed to say anything else, but honestly, I got the utmost respect, and I'm for y'all 100%.
Good morning. My name is Ken Gray, and I am a Harvard resident. Born and raised in Harvard, graduate of Harvard Buffalo High School. I live on Granby Street in Harvard because one of the things that I've learned as a young person growing up in Harvard is that because people in the city of Harvard have supported me through my life, I wanted to come back and give back to the city. Through that, I became a social worker and worked in the school as a school social worker for 30 years and became involved in politics and was a state representative representing Harvard in Bloomfield. One of the things that I realized is that if I want to get the citizens of Harvard involved, I have to go and talk with them and engage them in politics, engage them in community action. One of the things that I am concerned about is that if I want to understand how to fix a problem, one of the things I have to ask myself is who profits from the problem? It's not the person that suffers from the problem that I have to address. I have to try to figure out who profits from the problem. Harvard has many issues which Councilman Lebron explained around our education, around our property taxes, around our community involvement. And one of the things is that if I look at who profits from those issues that we're addressing, then that gives me a clue. And if people outside of Harvard who contributes politically to those folks in Harvard, I have to wonder who profits from some of the issues that we experience in Harvard. I call him senator, I call him judge. The next mayor, Eric Coleman, Councilman Lebron, who I have a lot of respect for, I think were very clear on their efforts that involve Harvard residents and want Harvard residents to decide what happens in this campaign. I support them, and I think that we have to be very careful, and I ask voters to be very careful about trying to understand who profits from this campaign. And if you look at those campaign contributions, you will figure it out. One of the things that I'm very disappointed in is that as a Harvard resident born and raised, as a former legislator, as a person with a master's in social work that had over 30 years in education, the current mayoral administration has never asked me as a Harvard resident, how can I change and help the city? I live in the city, born and raised, in a responsibility to come back and work in the city to try to change the conditions in my city. They never come and said, I want you to be a part of what happens in Harvard. I want you to have a say in what happens in Harvard. But yet you go outside of this community and ask those folks through financial means that if you give to the funds, you may have a say. I think that the Harvard residents are a little bit smarter than that. I ask that you look at those candidates who have an interest, your interest, as first priority. Thank you.
Questions for either Eric or Nick?
I have a question for Eric or both of you. So this was a campaign event. When was this campaign event to take these donations that you're aware of?
If my recollection serves me correctly, it was an event on August 25th. 26th? I'm correct, it was August 26th.
And after watching the video, which you've both seen, is that right?
I have.
And is it very obvious to you what is happening there? And can you explain when you saw that video, what was your big takeaway?
So as I explained in my remarks, I have no idea what possessed Mr. Aralambalam with Mayor Broning at his side to make that remark. I just don't have a clue. I don't know why something like that would be said. And it seemed very obvious to me that he was trading his political influence for a campaign contribution, or campaign contributions from that particular point.
Do you not think that the outside of Hartford or people have any vested interest, or you feel that this is simply for political gain? I mean, Hartford survives on everyone doing well.
I'm not certain what Torrington's vested interest would be in Hartford. I am in support of and in favor of other municipalities working along with Hartford, but I would never, and I don't think Councilman Lebron would ever
These were Republicans. I think you used the word Trump.
Yes.
How do you know that?
Yes, so in the last political campaign, I believe in Trump's last presidential campaign, 64% of the voters voted for Trump out of Torrington. So that's where my remarks were based out of. I think the main issue here is that as we're raising funds, and we all raise funds, Senator Coleman has raised funds, so have I, is the language that we're using specifically to people about what those funds mean. And in this particular situation, there was a quid pro quo with saying if you give dollars, you can have a say in what Hartford looks like. That is exactly what was said. And so what that indicates to me is that it's a trade. When we speak with people that have the genuine concern about Hartford, it's donate because I am the best candidate and I have the vision for Hartford. Never that you can influence or buy me and buy my favors so that you can have a say in what Hartford looks
So
like.
you're not joining forces here today other than to speak out against what you perceive as a wrong move for Hartford and this county.
Well, I respect Senator Coleman and have for a long time. But no, it is not a joining of campaigns. It's an agreement and alignment that Hartford's influence should not be bought.
Before we move on to the next question, let me just simply add that I also respect Councilman Lebron and the work he's done and what he stands for. It shouldn't go without notice that Councilman Lebron and I have the largest number of Hartford contributors, for the most part, small donors to our respective campaigns. We are both engaged in very grassroots-oriented public policy oriented campaigns.
Do you guys think this has anything to do with the land bank? A lot of opponents that I've talked to recently have been critical of his donations concerning the land bank, whether or not they're getting properties or things like that. Do you tie this to this at all?
I think that would be a stretch to try to tie that. I don't have any backing of that. What I do know is that there's been an augmented view or an augmented narrative on what the land bank has actually produced. And what they have produced is housing that supposedly is affordable, but isn't affordable for anyone that I know. And so the question becomes, like, where do these narratives come from? And so we have to just be very wary about narratives that we digest and understand and fact check them. The land bank is supposed to be in charge of three things. Let me make this very clear. It's housing, it's businesses, and farm. After 4 years, there have been no businesses and 0 farms. So in my understanding of what progress means, that's not very much progress. And so when you go to the outside of Torrington and your main thing is development housing, and that's what you're talking about, and you ask that you can have a say in what Hartford does, one can make that correlation.
Do you guys have any Republican donors yourself, or do you have any donors from Torrington or like?
So I think I have an aunt who we have many disagreements on at Thanksgiving, who may have donated $15 as far as I know. But, in generalities, I don't go to the Republican Party to look for funding or, MAGA supporters or Trump supporters, if you will.
Was this only Republican people at this event?
I don't have any way of knowing that.
So how do you know they're Republican?
Well, I would just refer back to what Councilman Lebron has said. The event was in Torrington, it was held in Torrington, where the voter turnout in Torrington was in support of the Republican Party.
But if 64% are Republican, then the other percent may be Democrats.
Could very well be. Could very well be. I'm not saying that there were no Democrats in the audience, because I just don't know. But I would question, as I have, why go to Torrington in order to hold a fundraising event and make such an appeal to the people who are in attendance at that fundraising event?
Yes. So a common criticism of Luke Bronin has been that he wasn't Hartford bred, he wasn't a Hartford native. Have there been any conversations with the mayor or any statements that you guys have heard of regarding these actions? Because Luke Bronin didn't live in Hartford until, I mean, it's an open secret, but he didn't live in Hartford until after winning the election. So we're wondering if he has made any statements regarding this or if there's been more of a head in the sand approach.
If Mayor Bronin has made any statement?
Yes, he did accompany, so these were similar statements as what we heard when around the time Luke Bronin was running. He's not really from Hartford. He did work for the Malloy administration, and he said, I can get you that money from the Capitol. And that was his promise, like what, 8-9 years ago when he was paying his canvassers $15 an hour. So have there been any additional statements after this Torrington incident, or are you guys not aware of it?
I'm not aware. I can't make any comment about whether or not Mayor Bronin has made any statement regarding the.
Okay, I was wondering if he had spoken to anyone, especially like Councilman Lebron, but I guess he's avoided the subject with you guys. Okay.
I have not heard any statement. He has not spoken to me about that incident.
Okay.
Somebody asked about the Hartford Land Bank, and I would simply say that I'm aware that Mr. Errol Lamb has been the president of the land bank since 2021. I am not aware of any Hartford residents that have benefited from his role as the president of the Hartford Land Bank. I am aware that there are properties in marginal neighborhoods that are highly priced out of the range and access of most of the residents of that particular neighborhood.
So quick question for both of you. This isn't the first time that we've seen that. When Mayor Bronin was running, he made a big push in all of the other suburban communities and promoting regionalization. And when he talked about seeking campaign contributions from them. Is there something that you want to say about his administration over the past 8 years, having started in a similar way, having sought those contributions from the suburbs?
So I think there's two very distinct things. When Mayor Bronin was going out and talking to the region, it was when Hartford was in a financial crisis. So the reason why he was going out was he was already mayor and he was speaking to the suburban towns to get legislation pushed for financing for the city. Very different than a quid pro quo saying, if you donate to my campaign, then I can, you'll have a say in what Hartford looks like. So I think they're two different things.
I just want to say, right, I understand everything they're saying, and clearly this is not about voting. Already gone, say he's not going to be mayor anymore. That's gone. What I need to know is, can't say his name, what have he done in Hartford for the Hartford community? I mean, if anybody in here can tell me something that he's done besides his name being called, because that was sprung on me last week. First time when I seen the mayor shaking his hand, never seen the guy a day in my life. So I need to know, what have he done in our community to make him so great that he should be our mayor?
So, Ms. Kusi, Ma'am Kusi, yes. So what I will say is what he clearly has done is spoke to what he believes are the political power brokers and the people who have political influence. To the extent of what he feels in his own conscience, what he's done for the city of Hartford, ultimately you have to ask him. A lot of us have done grassroots. Like I look at you and I think about the work and all the things that you have done in our community. I think about myself and Senator Coleman for all the work that we've actually done and that people actually know us. But to come into Hartford and speak to a handful of folks and then leverage this and then go out of town, I mean, it's clearly indicative that it is not in the best interest of the residents and the future of the city of Hartford.
I agree 100%.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming today. We really appreciate your time. My name is Candace Dorman. I'm the campaign manager for Councilman Nick Lebron's campaign for mayor. If you have any questions that you'd like to direct to Councilman Lebron, you can reach him at lebronforhartford@gmail.com. You can also find out information on our website at lebronforhartford.com. If you have any questions for the Coleman campaign, you can find that at colemanforhartford.com. You can reach out to his campaign manager, Jay Lewis, jay@colemanforhartford.com. I want to say a special thank you to all of the community members who made time to be here with us this morning and to share your experience and your hopes and visions for the city. That is why we're here, for the city of Hartford. This whole thing is nuanced, and we expect our leaders to understand that nuance and put the needs of our people first. Thank you again for being here. I'm going to close questions. If you have any questions to direct to folks individually, you can do that. Oh, we're going to make room. Okay, so we're actually going to make room for one more comment. Thank you.
Go, Miss Jennings.
Cynthia Jennings is going to come to the podium, and then we'll be done.
Thank you very much. I just want to thank the media for being here and taking this seriously. My name is Cynthia Jennings. I'm a civil rights attorney, and I spent 6 years on Hartford City Council. We in Hartford, and I'm a lifelong resident, essentially, of Hartford. We in Hartford have suffered at the hands of people who come into this city, don't understand the city, and take the money from the residents of this city and fail to take action on behalf of those who live here. So many residents have been cut out of so many things. And when we see people making deals on the backs of the residents and taxpayer dollars, we feel like that's a problem. Just like every other town, we have autonomy when it comes to how our money is being spent and how our money is being raised. Right now, after Mr. Bronin came in, he shut down access to the residents having money and having the say something in their own money, because he had the state take over the city of Hartford's budget. This came against the wishes of many of those of us in the city. Now we're dealing with another deal where actually, if Mr. Arunin takes over, Luke Bronin has another 4 years in office, because this man is the person he started promoting early on, and we did not know who he was. I'm just going to use one example, and that is 78 Martin Street, which was a property that was owned by the land bank. 78 Martin Street was valued at $39,000. Martin Street is deep in the hood. Now, once that property was done over, and it was supposed to contribute to generational wealth of the residents of this city, that property was done over. Now it was selling for $250,000, as if it were shoreline property on Martin Street. And that property was taken care of and financed by grants and monies that could have gone to other programs, or could have gone to residents of the city of Hartford. And now for it to be sold for $250,000 tells me that there's no way, if people with a $29,000 income a year could purchase that kind of property, and no bank would actually authorize it without the necessary properties around it, the value of the properties around it affecting the property. When we're talking about the 3,000 plus, while I was on city council, the 3,000 plus housing units that were developed for the city of Hartford, all of them high rate properties, so that Hartford residents making $29,000 a year were not eligible to live in any of those properties. So we're talking about changing the whole basis of the city of Hartford. Now you're talking about Torrington, where I used to go to church, and for a couple of years I grew up in Bantam, Connecticut, and we went to church in Torrington. There was one black family in Bantam, and that was ours. And then when we went to church in Torrington, those were all the surrounding towns that went to that church. The bottom line is, there was no other church in that town that was black or Latino or in any way related to what we in Hartford do or need. So when we're talking about bringing Hartford back to the old glory that it used to be, it's talking about simply having Hartford residents be employed, having Hartford residents be employed by the city of Hartford. I mean, Mr. Bronin brought in Bubachek's, the Secretary of Transportation's niece or relative, to get involved in the finance department. Hartford residents need those jobs. Those jobs are funded by our tax dollars. We're talking about equity and fairness and how these campaigns are run. If most of your supporters are Republicans, then why is the Democratic Party actually endorsing that kind of a candidate for a Democrat? So even if we got our wishes through the Democratic Party, we are now outside of the process because most of those people in that party in Torrington are in fact Republicans. And I've been in every party just about. I don't have any particular say about what party being better than the other because as far as I am as an African-American woman, that's a problem. We have not been, our wishes have not been granted. Hartford is essentially African-American women and Latino women and mothers being cut out of the process every time you turn around. So I think that it's important that, and it's imperative that when someone is running for office, yes, we have a right to criticize those. We have a right to redress the government, and especially when you're talking about electing a governor or a council person or any other kind of person that's going to represent you. We live in a representative form of government. We don't believe that this is representing our form of government and our way of life. So, for me, as a civil rights attorney, I believe we have a right to redress our government, and especially when we're in the process of formulating our government. I believe people have a right to talk about, they need to come to the front and explain why they do what they do. It's my understanding that this man's father-in-law is the chief executive officer or very high up in Eversource. Our electric bills are high now because of MDC. Now, the water bill is 4 times what it used to be. And if any utility thinks they can come in here and then raise our rates, our utility rates, to the extent that we now cannot afford to live in Hartford or live anywhere in the state of Connecticut, then we have an issue that we need to deal with. Thank you for, thank God that Judge Senator Coleman has come up with a way that we can have lower electric bills just like Wallingford does and 500 towns in the state. Because if we have to secede from using Eversource, then that's what we will do. But the bottom line is, no, we are not for sale. No, you are not going to come in here and raise our rates and raise our utilities and price us out of our own market. No, you're not going to say we can't participate in FEMA monies unless if we have parking tickets or owe taxes to the state of Connecticut or the city of Hartford and be cut out of processing money that we have coming to us. So I think that it's important that we recognize that this is a serious issue and we do need to have at least Mr. Aruna come in and talk about why he did what he did, why he's raising the monies that he's raising, and how is this going to benefit Hartford residents if you're giving away Hartford property. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, former Councilwoman. And with that, we're going to come to a close. Again, I want to say thank you to everyone for making time to be here. Thank you to Senator Coleman and your team for partnering with us, with Councilman Lebron, and our team to make this happen. We really appreciate you, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.